Silent grief after the funeral. The scent of lilies lingered in the cool air, stubborn and thick. Anna stood just outside the glass doors of her childhood home, a sprawling, ivy-draped estate perched on the outer edge of Darlington, Massachusetts. It should have shimmered with nostalgia, but all she felt was the slick chill of loss pressed up against her skin. The funeral had drained everyone, yet the emptiness that followed seemed worse than the event itself. Inside, people milled about, their whispers polite and measured. Crystal glasses clinked, laughter faltered, resumes of former friendships haltingly revived over tea and stale biscuits. Anna's father moved among the guests with a kind of rigid graciousness, nodding at condolences, occasionally squeezing a shoulder, but his eyes never quite softened. He had always been good at navigating these performances, her mother used to say so, with a tremulous smile that now haunted Anna's memory. Anna gripped the railing tightly, her knuckles white and stiff. She should have stood next to her father. She should have greeted family friends, thanked them for coming, carried her grief with composure. Instead, she could barely draw breath. A hollow ache gnawed at her chest. Her mother deserved more than a line of carefully arranged flowers and the recitation of old hymns. She deserved wailing, outrage, the kind of heartbreak that shattered windows and slammed doors. She felt more isolated than ever in the house she'd once loved, haunted by too many ghosts, living and dead. Her father's footsteps echoed in the hall, sharp and impatient. She caught sight of him through the window, stoic, composed, almost untouched. But even as his lips curled in a pale imitation of a smile for an old neighbor, Anna sensed something unresolved lurking in his eyes. A flicker of calculation, a whisper of relief. It sickened her in a way she couldn't name. From somewhere deep inside, a conviction took root, uncomfortable, insistent. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. And as night fell, Anna resolved. She would get to the bottom of whatever secrets the shadows of her home had been keeping, even if it meant upending everything her family had stood for. The unexpected will. Morning in Darlington brought fog and heavy, perfumed by old leather and fading roses. Anna sat across from her father, her hands folded carefully in her lap, trying not to meet his gaze. He looked carved from stone, expressionless, composed, every inch of him self-assured. Mr. Clark cleared his throat and began reading. The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unresolved. "This is the last will and testament of Margaret Langley." Anna's chest tightened at the sound of her mother's name said aloud in that sterile tone. Paragraph by paragraph, Mr. Clark detailed the instructions. Donations to a local museum. Money left to a cousin in Florida. Anna listened, waiting to hear her own name, some acknowledgement of her mother's love and intention. And then the words came. "To my beloved daughter Anna, I leave the pearl earrings that once belonged to my mother, and the remainder of my personal effects. All real estate, investments, and financial holdings are to be transferred to my husband, Gregory Langley." Anna felt the room tilt. Only a small box of jewelry, a handful of keepsakes, the entire fortune, every share, every account, the house itself, was left to her father. Her father's lips curled into a satisfied, almost triumphant smile. For a moment, Anna thought she saw something victorious flicker across his features before he smoothed it away behind practiced composure. Mr. Clark folded the will. "That concludes Mrs. Langley's wishes as expressed in her most recent will." The room was suddenly colder. Anna managed a polite nod, numbness spreading through her limbs. There must be some mistake, she thought. Her mother had confided in her, told her about plans to establish a scholarship, to secure Anna's independence. None of that was here, not in the letter of the law. Not in the words spoken in this stifling room. She searched her father's face for any explanation, any softening. but his eyes met hers with unreadable calculation. In that brittle silence, Anna understood something else had died with her mother, a sense of security, the illusion that justice lived under their roof. When Anna left the room, the pearl earrings weighed nothing compared to the questions and suspicions suddenly pressing her fingers, grazing the edge of the vanity, the silk scarf still folded meticulously in the top drawer. Tears threatened, but she blinked them away. She opened the bottom drawer, a place she hadn't searched in years. Inside, beneath a stack of old letters and birthday cards, was a small wooden box. She lifted the lid. Within were dozens of photographs, some faded nearly to sepia, others glossy and colored by time. Anna sorted through them, smiling through a haze of sorrow at images of herself as a chubby-cheeked child, her mother beaming with love. But then she paused. Tucked among the safe, warm family pictures was a series she didn't recognize. A much younger version of her father, Gregory, stood beside a woman Anna couldn't place. The woman, elegant and unsmiling, had lush dark hair and eyes that seemed to glint with mischief. They looked close, too close. In some, Gregory had his arm around her shoulders. In others, the two leaned together in conspiratorial whispers, not a trace of Anna's mother anywhere. More disturbing were the dates written in delicate script on the back. Many were taken during the years her mother was already married to her father. Anna dug deeper into the box, unsettled. There were letters, too, bound with a faded blue ribbon. She untied them, heart pounding. The handwriting was her father's. She recognized the neat script. The notes were intimate, private, full of a passion and tenderness Anna had never seen her father show to her mother. One, dated 24 years earlier, read, "My dearest, I think of you every night, lying next to a woman I do not love. When this is over, it will finally be just us." Anna's breath caught in her throat. Could this woman have been his mistress? Had her mother known? The weight of confusion and quiet outrage pressed against her chest. She sorted through more photos. A few were more recent, one with the woman and a boy who looked just enough like her father to be his son. The storm outside intensified, thunder rattling the glass. Anna sat perfectly still, photographs spilling like confessions onto the comforter. Her sense of betrayal rang with an insistence that broke the hush of mourning. Anna, still in her flannel pajamas, padded down the staircase, expecting a delivery or maybe a well-meaning neighbor. Instead, through the stained glass window she glimpsed her father's unmistakable silhouette, and with him, a woman, strikingly beautiful in a cold, angular way, holding the hand of a boy in his late teens. Anna's heart dropped. She watched as her father opened the door wide, ushering them in as if he were welcoming family after a long journey. The woman glanced up, her dark eyes sweeping the foyer with a sort of assessing curiosity before settling on Anna. The boy, awkward, silent, avoided her gaze altogether. "Anna," her father announced, voice eerily buoyant. "I'd like you to meet Lisa and her son, David. They'll be staying with us for a while." He didn't bother to soften his words or explain or ask. Lisa stepped forward, her lips forming a smile too thin and practiced to be warm. "It's nice to finally meet you, Anna. Your father's told us so much about you." Anna's body went cold. Fury, humiliation, and disbelief warred inside her, leaving her paralyzed where she stood. "For a while?" she managed, every syllable thick with alarm. Her father's tone was final, his eyes steel. The house is much too big for just the two of us now. Lisa and David are family. At least, I hope they will be. I expect you to make them feel welcome." Anna glanced at the staircase, half dreaming her mother would appear, laughing at the absurdity of it all. But there were only the four of them. Anna in her pajamas, unwashed hair pulled into a careless knot. Her father, commanding and remote. Lisa, glimmering like a dagger. David, shrinking into the wallpaper. They moved in that afternoon. By sunset, Lisa's perfume haunted the hallways, erasing every wisp of her mother's gentle rose water. And David's muddy sneakers were lined up next to the old, familiar boots Anna's mother had worn for years. "Anna, you're an adult now. Learn to adapt." The house had turned on her. Her father had made his choice, cruel, unflinching, and irrevocable. Afterward, Anna returned to her room, slamming the door behind her. The photograph of her mother on the nightstand seemed to tremble, the face in the frame both familiar and impossibly distant. Anna touched the glass, drawing strength from the promise she had made herself, to search, to uncover, to fight. And beneath her grief, now hardening into resolve, something else took hold. A cold, clear understanding that she was on her own. And that was exactly how it needed to be. Buried memories. Night in the Langley house had always been gentle, a peaceful hush, the old floorboards creaking as her mother made one last round, tucking in loose ends before the world went dark. Now, night came with a different sharpness. Anna's sleep was shallow, interrupted by laughter and clinking glasses drifting up from rooms she no longer felt welcome in. It was on one of these restless nights that Anna found herself wandering back to the attic, flashlight in hand and toes cold against the mahogany floor. The attic door groaned open, releasing a swirl of dust and memories she'd tried not to think about for years. The moonlight fell in silver slats across cardboard boxes and forgotten trunks. Anna knelt, hands trembling as she lifted the lid of an old cedar chest marked Margaret's. Inside, her mother's past lay preserved: high school yearbooks, theater programs, and a faded wedding veil. She sank down beside the chest, knees hugged to her chest, and let herself remember. Her mother pacing the kitchen late at night, the half-moon bruises on her arms explained away with awkward smiles and stories about rushing through the garden. The way every argument with Anna's father ended not in yelling, but in silence thick enough to choke on. Anna bit her lip, the taste of blood sharp in her mouth. She'd long suspected, known really, that her father's cruelty didn't begin with neglect. There were bruises that didn't matter against these memories. Folding away her mother's sadness just as she did the linens, believing it would make the house safer, but it only made the wounds fester. The attic seemed to close around her, thick with dust and secrets. Anna pressed the photo to her heart, rocking gently. That night, she couldn't escape the weight of her own guilt, the humiliation of having never fought harder for the woman who held her through every storm. Downstairs, she could hear David and Lisa laughing at something on TV, her father's baritone booming with surprising warmth. For them, life moved on without a hitch. But for Anna, every laugh was a reminder that the past never left. It only changed shape, waiting to be unearthed when the night was darkest. Before she descended the attic stairs, Anna slipped the photo and envelope into her pocket. She would look for more clues, Whatever she could find, she owed her mother that much. And with each secret she uncovered, her resolve to confront her father, and whatever darkness he'd buried, hardened. The house could try to erase her mother's memory. Anna refused to let it. The letter inside the diary. The next morning dawned damp and gray, casting the whole house in a watery half-light. Anna lay in bed long after sunrise, the photograph from the attic pressed beneath her pillow. Each time she closed her eyes, her mother's bruised smile flickered behind her eyelids like a warning and a plea. The house echoed with unfamiliar sounds. Lisa humming in the kitchen, David clattering silverware, Anna's father's new, careless laughter. Anna wrapped herself in her mother's old cardigan before daring to go downstairs. She moved quietly, hoping to go unseen. Instead, she slipped past the new family and made her way to her mother's sitting room, a sanctuary now stripped of its warmth, with the curtains drawn and the dust thick upon every surface. Anna pressed her palm against the cold window, then turned resolutely to the antique writing desk tucked in the corner. She'd emptied the drawers once already, but some instinct drove her to search again. Inside one of the drawers, "Then I am gone, and the truth can no longer hurt me. I wish I could have protected you from all of this. You must believe that I tried. Your father is not the man he wants you to see. There are secrets that weigh heavily on this house and on my heart. There is money and power at stake, yes, but more than that, a reputation he will do anything to protect. If you find this, look for the ledger. It is hidden where only love would search. In it you'll find the proof. Do not trust easily, Anna. Not everyone who wears a smile is your friend, and not every silence is meant to protect you. With all my love, Mother." Anna read the letter twice, her hands trembling. The words thudded inside her like a heartbeat. Memories tumbled back, her mother's late nights at the desk, the conversations cut short whenever Anna entered the room. Her mother's fearful glances toward her husband when she thought Anna wasn't watching. Look for the ledger. It is hidden where only love would search. Anna's brow furrowed. What did her mother mean? Suddenly she remembered. The old music box, a forgotten gift from Anna's childhood, hidden for years in her mother's closet. With a surge of resolve, Anna hurried upstairs, clutching the diary to her chest. As she reached for the closet door, a floorboard creaked behind her. Anna's heart leapt. She turned in time to see Lisa standing at the threshold, her face inscrutable. Looking for something? Lisa's voice was sweet, but her eyes were sharp, honed by secrets of her own. Anna slipped the diary behind her back. "Just sorting some of my mother's things." Lisa's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You know your father doesn't like the past being dug up. Some things are better left alone, Anna." Anna's mouth rang dry. For a long moment, neither woman moved. But as Lisa finally retreated, Anna felt her mother's letter like a pulse beneath her skin. The past was not dead, nor was it sleeping. It was waiting just around the corner, ready to be uncovered. And Anna was finally ready to face it. Mother's words echoed again in her mind. Anna lifted the music box into her lap and felt beneath it with searching fingers. The bottom was heavier than it should have been. Heart-hammering, she flipped it over and discovered a tiny latch, almost invisible against the intricately carved wood. With a trembling push, the latch released and the bottom panel slid open. Inside, Wrapped in creased ivory paper was a slender black ledger. Anna's breath caught. She recognized her mother's handwriting on the first page, dates, transactions, and names. But as she flipped through, she realized this ledger was not about household bills or everyday expenses. No, the numbers were too large, the names too unfamiliar. She turned to a page marked Langley Investments, Offshore, Discretion Required. The name of her father appeared over and over beside massive wire transfers and cryptic notations. In the margins, scattered between careful rows of numbers, her mother had written desperate warnings. He threatened me again. For Anna's safety, I cannot refuse. If anything happens to me, show this to the police. Anna swallowed hard. The air seemed thinner, the room suddenly closing in around her. Each turn of the page revealed something darker. Illegal transfers, bribes, even vague references to men her father hired for personal matters. Suddenly, a floorboard shifted outside the door. Anna froze, clutching the music box and ledger to her chest, her own breathing so loud she feared she'd give herself away. Soft steps passed by. The shadow of a figure pausing outside the room. Anna pressed herself into the deepest shadows of the closet, waiting, the silence pressing into her ears. Finally, the steps retreated. Anna sagged against the wall, heart wild in her chest. She knew now, beyond question, that the stakes were higher than she'd imagined. Her mother had died with these secrets locked away. And now Anna alone held proof that could topple her father's carefully built empire, proof that put her in danger. She tucked the ledger deep beneath her cardigan and replaced the music box. Quiet known. Each time a floorboard creaked in the hallway, she jolted awake, certain someone was about to burst in and snatch away the secrets she'd fought so hard to uncover. At breakfast, Anna felt the tension like a live wire beneath the surface. Lisa poured coffee with steady hands, her eyes too calm, too knowing. Anna kept her own gaze lowered, fiercely protective of her thoughts. Even David, usually sullen and withdrawn, seemed to glance at her with something like suspicion. Only her father appeared unfazed. He chatted breezily about the investors visiting next week, about renovations he wanted for the house. Not once did he mention Anna's mother, as if she were a ghost, best left undisturbed. By midday, Anna's nerves were stretched thin. She carried the copied pages of the ledger, hidden deep within her coat pocket, into town, ducking into a quiet library to scan them into a secure email she sent herself. Her hand shook the whole time, and she could feel the gaze of the librarian following her, as though even strangers could sense the danger she carried. When she returned home, the house was silent. Anna crept upstairs to her room, but not before she heard voices in the sitting room. She paused on the landing, holding her breath. Lisa's voice drifted up, low and urgent. She found something, I know she did. Margaret was always clever. She wouldn't leave things to chance. If Anna turns those papers over to anyone, we're finished. Her father's response was clipped, icy. Anna's smart, but she's still just a girl. Let me handle this, Lisa. It's my house, my rules. No one's going to ruin what we've worked for. Lisa hissed. She's at the edge, Gregory. If you don't act, I will. I won't see David thrown out after all we've been through. A cold chill chased down Anna's spine. She pulled back, heart thudding, careful not to make a sound. The conspiracy was real. She was no longer just grieving. She was surviving. That night, the house grew still while the storm gathered again outside. Anna flipped through her mother's diary, searching for reassurance, for courage. She let the words wrap around her heart. Do not trust easily, Anna. Not every smile is a friend. The attic, the only exit. She remembered her mother's words. the lessons in courage written in ink and in bruises, and in silences. Tomorrow, Anna would go to the police. Tomorrow, she'd risk everything. But tonight, surrounded by the whispers of her family's past, Anna swore she would not let history repeat itself. No turning back. The next morning, Anna woke before dawn, the weight of determination heavy in her chest. She barely noticed the ache in her limbs, the hollow hunger in her stomach. Her mind spun only with the secret clutched in her arms all night. She rose quietly, moving through the half-light like a shadow, careful not to disturb the quiet that blanketed the house. As she dressed, her hands trembled, but she pressed on. She tucked the scanned copies of the ledger deep into her bag, along with her mother's diary and the letter. If anything happened, if someone stopped her, these pieces of the past would speak when her voice could not. Downstairs in the kitchen, her father was already awake, dressed immaculately. The radio played softly, but the cheerfulness in the announcer's voice seemed almost obscene. He glanced up as Anna entered, his eyes measuring her in a way that made her skin crawl. "You're up early," he said, pouring himself another cup of black coffee. "Big plans today?" She tried to keep her tone steady. "Just some errands in town. I need air." The lie stuck in her throat, but she managed to swallow it. He smiled, but the expression didn't reach his eyes. "Be careful, Anna. It's a dangerous world out there." She only nodded and moved to the door, feeling his gaze follow her every step out into the chill morning. Each footfall down the driveway tightened the knot of anxiety in her stomach. She didn't know if he suspected, or if he and Lisa had found the hiding place in the attic yet. But she couldn't wait any longer, for her mother, for herself. She walked quickly, nearly fleeing, barely noticing the pale gold leaves drifting down from the trees. The familiar street felt strange, as if the whole town might conspire. Letter and copies of the ledger. "We'll take care of this," the officer said finally, her voice firm, scribbling notes and collecting the documents. "You did the right thing." Suddenly, Anna felt the years of grief, doubt, and fear begin to lift. Slowly, uncertainly, like fog at sunrise. She wasn't sure what would happen next. The investigation would be slow, dangerous. She might lose her home. She might put herself in even greater danger. But she knew there was no turning back. She had chosen the truth. She had chosen herself and her mother at long last. She stepped out of the police station as the sun broke through the clouds, golden and startling. For the first time since her mother's death, Anna felt something like hope. Even if the road ahead threatened shadows, it could never take away the courage she had reclaimed. Her fight was far from finished. But now, Anna walked forward, one step at a time, no longer afraid. Shadows lift. In the days that followed, the Langley estate transformed from a fortress of secrets to the epicenter of a quiet storm. Anna returned under escort to collect her things, each room echoing with the nervous footsteps of investigators. Yellow tape cordoned off her father's office. For the first time, the air felt clean, empty of the old lies that once haunted every shadowed corner. She tried to stay invisible as uniformed officers moved through the house. Yet no matter how small she made herself, Anna felt the eyes of her father and Lisa burn through her resolve. They watched her not as family, but as an intruder. Something precious and irreplaceable had ruptured between them, something that could never be mended. David lingered at the edge of the foyer as she packed, a question hovering on his lips, but he said nothing. Anna wished she knew how to explain, to tell him he was free now, that the darkness in their house was lifting little by little. When night came, she stayed in a small hotel downtown. She lay awake, her mother's diary pressed to her chest, the streetlights beyond the window blinking in and out of focus. The ache of loss remained, but beneath it, the sharp bite of fear lessened. For the first time, safe numbers to call, offered a small envelope with the last of her mother's jewelry inside, and told her to expect a long, difficult process. "You may be called to testify," he said, his voice calm. "Stay close and stay safe." Anna agreed, her voice steadier than she'd imagined. As she stepped into the chilly air and the dusk settled around her, she realized she was free to decide the next chapter of her story. The house, with all its ghosts, was behind her now. There would be hard days ahead, new wounds and old griefs she'd have to untangle, but for the first time in years she could breathe. That night, as Anna crossed the small town square, she paused beneath the old oak where her mother once sat reading aloud. Above her, stars blinked through the branches. Anna reached up, as if to touch one, and whispered a promise to the darkness. "I remember. I won't let you be forgotten." The wind shifted, the first sign of autumn coming in. Anna smiled through tears, feeling something within herself begin to mend. No longer trapped by secrets, she walked into the future, light on her shoulders, hope in her step, and the shadow of the past finally lifting behind her. New beginnings. The fall air was brisk and light, and Anna found herself walking without purpose for the first time in years. She no longer needed to track shadows or count the secrets stitched in every corner. Her feet led her through unfamiliar streets filled with the bright clamor of a world she'd almost forgotten. With each passing day, the ache of the old house faded. Its walls, once so confining, now seemed like a distant echo. She rented a small apartment on the edge of town, up 2 flights of creaking stairs. Sunlight streamed through the south windows every morning, warming her to the bones. The space was modest, a mishmash of inherited furniture, dog-eared books, and the potted plant she'd rescued from her mother's windowsill. But, for the first time, it felt like something wholly her own. Anna filled her days with routine. She took a job at the library, shelving the same volume she once read with trembling hands. The steady order of words and paper be so closely tied, each struggling to rewrite the truth. Lisa was gone. No farewell. No forwarding address. Only David remained, and though he never returned Anna's letters, she heard he was living with an aunt far away, slowly piecing together a life untouched by the family's sins. Anna hoped in time he'd find his peace too. One evening, Detective Hill stopped by her apartment. He brought updates on the case, but more than that, he listened as Anna spoke of her mother, of the garden she'd kept, the lullabies she'd hummed, the quiet dignity she'd carried even as the world frayed around her. "You did right by her, Anna," the detective said, smiling softly. "Some stories need courage to end, and even more to begin again." That night, Anna stood on her tiny balcony, watching the distant stars flicker above the rooftops. The world felt limitless and raw, stretching out beyond the glow of her street lamp. For the first time, Anna didn't wonder what might be hiding in the dark. She only wondered what she might find in the light. The future was unwritten. Anna breathed deeply, her heart unburdened. Whatever came next would be hers to shape, chapter by chapter, truth by truth, day by shining day. The Garden of Tomorrow. Spring arrived as quietly as forgiveness, painting the town in soft pastels and sweetening the air with blooming lilacs. Anna spent longer hours outdoors now, feeling the sun warm her skin and the gentle wind tease loose strands of hair from her ponytail. With each passing day, she shed another small piece of the past, until the weight of sorrow began to dissolve into something lighter, something almost joyful. One Saturday, Anna walked to the community garden on the edge of town, a plot tangled with hope and memory. She knelt in the dirt, carefully tending rows of seedlings. It reminded her of her mother's old garden, the place where love was planted in handfuls of earth and shaped by patience. As Anna loosened the soil around a stubborn root, she remembered how her mother's hands had guided hers, calloused but gentle. All mother's story of turning pain into purpose, secrets into sentences. Sometimes, late at night, Anna wrote pages and pages, her words spilling freely until the sun crept up over the horizon. The court case lingered in the background, a distant echo in town gossip and headlines. But Anna no longer let it define her days. She visited her father only once, at the cold, gray correctional facility on the outskirts of town. Their conversation was short. She looked him in the eye and told him the truth. She forgave him, not for his sake, but for her own. When she left, Anna felt lighter, as though she had closed the last painful chapter of that old story. One afternoon in early June, Anna returned to the garden, pausing by a row of blooming lilies. She pressed her palm to the earth and closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of new life below the surface. Her mother's ring, hanging from a chain at Anna's throat, warmed with her own quiet courage. Anna stood, brushing soil from her knees, and looked up at the swelling summer sky. The world around her brimmed with possibility. She was no longer haunted. She was growing, reaching. She was her mother's daughter, rooted and rising, blooming where she'd been planted. Anna smiled, hope unfurling within her as surely as any flower in the garden of tomorrow.